Hello and welcome back to the Bikers of Africa channel. I am Timber Kumalo, professional superbike racer, rider coach, as well as commentator. Today we're going to be talking about MotoGP 2025 and in particular, very exciting topic for me, Marc Marquez versus Pecco Bagnaia. There's an intense rivalry building in the factory Ducati team. Marc Marquez is coming out on top at the moment. So today we're going to be unpacking that dynamic, see why Pecco Bagnaia is struggling, why Marc Marquez looks so strong, and how I anticipate this rivalry to pan out as the season goes on. And of course, I think whoever wins out in this team is going to be the MotoGP World Champion. So let's look at Pecco versus Marc 2025 in more detail. So when you look at Marc Marquez versus Pecco Bagnaia, there's many ways you can unpack it. I think the best way is to start at the end of 2024, which gives us a good perspective and context as to where the 2025 season started. In 2024, Pecco Bagnaia was technically the fastest rider. He was the winningest rider. He won the most races. However, he was not the champion. Jorge Martin at Pramac Ducati was a champion. Where was Marc Marquez? Marc Marquez was on the Gresini Ducati, on a GP23 Ducati, where Martin and Bagnaia were on the 24 spec. And Marc finished third in the championship, was consistent through most of the season. However, he did have a couple of crashes. There were some races where he didn't have the speed and some phenomenal performances. Phillip Island 2024 springs up to mind as one of Marc's standout performances where he overcame the difference of the 23 versus the 2024. Now looking at 25, Marc, of course, has qualified on pole in every race, 0-6 record with Bagnaia versus Marquez in terms of qualifying. And the only race where Pecco has managed to beat Marc was, of course, the race where Marc crashed at Circuit of the Americas. So at the moment, Marc is edging out Pecco in terms of qualifying speed, which is just raw speed. This is something which is different compared to last year, where we saw Pecco was often better in qualifying, Marc crashing a lot in Q1 and Q2 sessions last year. But now on the GP25, Marc seems to have found his flow. He is, of course, statistically the best qualifier in MotoGP history with the most pole positions. So I was not surprised to see Marc come out on top in that battle. However, what has surprised me is how much Pecco struggled in qualifying relative to the rest of his MotoGP career. So Marc easily wins out that qualifying head-to-head. Looking at the races, Marc's biggest, strongest point this season has been his race pace, how he manages the tires. If you guys managed to catch the Qatar Grand Prix, you saw Marc just riding behind Maverick Viñales on the KTM, pacing himself, managing it. And the moment he went into the lead, he just bolted. He did the same thing at Thailand at the start of the season. So Pecco's previously been a guy who's been really good at managing races, managing from the front. But because Marc has raw speed at the moment, Pecco's just struggling to match him in that head-to-head, and especially with Marc being so good at managing the tires. Final category, I would say, is racecraft. Racecraft mentality. And I think this is where Pecco Bagnaia seems to be struggling the most. Marc Marquez is a scary competitor, and I think for the main reason in that he's always there. Rain, sunshine, half wet, flag to flag, all types of circumstances. Marc Marquez is always a top 3 guy. And Pecco Bagnaia has his off days and he has his crashing days. Marc Marquez crashes as well, but he tends to crash out of first place. And if he's not crashing, he's winning. And Pecco seems to me this season like mentally he seems a bit fragile. And I've always felt he comes across a little bit fragile, but in particular this season, he almost seems like he's got a defeatist mindset of like, we're trying, the bike's not there. I need the bike to meet me so that I can compete with Marc. Whereas with Marc, he's just delivering whether the bike is there or not. So looking at how the season is going to unfold, I think Pecco is going to get stronger. We are going to get to Pecco Bagnaia tracks like Assen and Mugello. I think that's going to be a good litmus test of how Pecco can truly compete against Marc. However, in terms of the championship, for me, it's very clear. Marc Marquez is always there. On a bad day, he finishes on the podium. On a terrible day, he crashes out of P1. He is just going to keep building that points tally with sprint wins and race wins, where Pecco is kind of waiting. We don't know where Pecco's next win is going to come from because he only won at Kota when Marc crashed. So it's looking difficult for him. What I think he really needs to improve on is the qualifying. If he's going to beat Marc, he needs to be there right with him at the start of the race. He needs to disrupt Mark's rhythm. It's too easy when Mark gets to the front, only has to worry about little bro behind him, and he can just run at his own rhythm. So Pecco, and we did see it in moments from him this season. We saw it here. He got his elbows out. He fought with Mark, and I love that. We need to see more of that side from Pecco Bagnaia because, as we've covered so far in this video, Mark has got better raw speed in qualifying. He's got better race pace. He's got better mentality, and he's got better strategy. So for Pecco, I wish him the best of luck, but I think this battle's already run. Mark's going to be the champion. However, that's my 2 cents. What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments if you think Mark or Pecco's going to come out ahead in the championship. Also, do you think Alex Marquez can finish as runner-up? And if he does he deserve a factory Ducati team? That's Pecco versus Mark. Mark's leading the championship. I think he's going to be on top at the end. Let's see how this 2025 season unfolds. Next race coming up is the Silverstone GP, where Enea Bastianini was victorious last year. Pecco's won there before. Mark has won there before. 9 years ago, though, so it is going to be a juicy one coming up at the end of May.